with all of that in mind, I'm going to hand things over to Dr. Jessie Segan.
Hi, thanks, Talia. I am so excited to be here. I'm the Director of Student Support, and we're really happy to have this opportunity to talk about our department and our new partnership with ReDiscover and our continued partnership with Burrell. So I'm just going to start by saying that folks in our student support team, we align with the district's comprehensive school improvement plan goal 2, which is we will foster a responsive, caring, and inclusive environment. So the folks who are on our team, I'm going to talk about those folks here in just a little bit, but we support the social, emotional, career, behavioral, and academic supports to all students here in LSR 7, including pre-K through 12. So we implement Tier 1 supports, which is for all students, Tier 2 supports, and Tier 3 supports that focus on that social emotional learning, relationship building, social awareness skills, self-management skills, and responsible decision making. So I'm going to slide right into talking about our school counseling team first and tell you a little bit of a background before I pass it over to our school counselor representative here tonight. We have 52 school counselors in the district. We have 1 to 2 at each of our elementary schools. We have 3 counselors at our middle schools. We have 1 early college counselor and 1 counselor at SRA. We also have 1 for our R7 Online Academy and 5 at each of our high schools. All of our school counselors have a master's degree. Many of our school counselors are licensed professional counselors, as well as nationally certified counselors, a lot of credentials here in the counseling department. We have a steering leadership team that consists of our school counselors and a mental health therapist. All of our school counselors serve every student, so 18,000 students here in the district. And the person who's going to be speaking on behalf of the counseling department who is here with us today is Ms. Jen Bigger. She has recently received the Dr. Norman C. Geisber's nationally recognized Missouri program, which is called the NORM. It's also a national recognition award that Missouri school counselor programs may earn, which achieving this award not only garners state recognition, but national recognition as well through the American School Counselor Association. So we are really excited for Jen to be here tonight to be able to talk about our K-12 school counseling program. So I'm going to pass it over to Jen.
Hi there. I am also very excited to be here, and thank you for that wonderful introduction. Like Dr. Segan said, school counselors follow like a comprehensive school counseling program that's for every single student in the district. Those programs are developed using grade level developmental expectations. So we have, just like teachers have expectations to teach, we have those expectations to guide our programs. They are developed systematically, and we evaluate our programs on a regular basis so that we're meeting the needs of the students where they are. Digging into what a school counseling program is and kind of what we do day to day, there are 3 content areas that we kind of focus on. So there's the academic development of students, which is kind of just teaching them the skills that they need for educational successes or development or achievement. Social emotional development, where we teach them just kind of those social emotional things such as coping skills, safety skills. I'm just trying to help them be productive members of society as they grow up. And then career development, where we kind of expand their viewpoints. You know, I'm in the elementary world, and I know every single time I talk to kids, it's usually, I want to be a movie star, I want to be a singer, I want to be a sports star. And I'm kind of like, there's other jobs out there. Let's look and see what there is. I'm not diminishing those wonderful dreams of being that, but I want to let them see what's out there, and so do the other counselors. So then once you dig a little deeper, in a nutshell, there's 4 components of a school counseling program that we do every single day. There's counseling curriculum. So every counselor goes into the classroom to teach skills. So that's that Tier 1 basic foundational level of teaching those skills to those kids. We also do different educational activities. I know the colleges do career nights or college nights, and we do just different things to help expand our students' achievement. Then we have the individual student planning. And that kind of helps them with transitions. It also helps them develop some individual career planning and just helping them individually where they are academically and where they're going next. Then we have the responsive services component, and this is kind of what we think about when we think about school counselors or counselors in general. We think of meeting with kids one-on-one where they are, meeting for small groups to help them through things, or even like some crisis intervention. Say someone's having a panic attack and they need somebody there. That's that responsive services piece. We also, since most of us have a large, if there's one counselor at a school, that part is very solution focused and brief. I have about 400 kids that are in my school, so that has to be brief. So that's when we look into referring them to our wonderful services that we also have available that you're going to hear about. The mental health therapist that we have here, Burrell, ReDiscover, and then our outside services in the community. And then the last part of our program every single day is that system support, where we evaluate our programs, we maintain our programs. We also do those fair share responsibilities because it takes a lot of people to run a school. So we help with that as well. So that's kind of in a nutshell what a school counselor does every single day. And I will tell you, the Lee Summit school counselors are just an amazing group of people, and I'm very proud to be their spokesperson for tonight. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Jen. That was a really good overview of our program. And thank you again for bragging about our team, because they are absolutely amazing. And I meant to mention that we have 3 leads as well. We have Casey Blakemore at the elementary level, Tony Drektra at the middle school level, and then Tammy Vogler at the high school level. So they are wonderful, and I definitely couldn't do anything without them and the rest of our team. All right, well, I'm really excited to talk about our mental health therapist who is here with us tonight, Tina Rambo Faulkner. She is representing our mental health therapist group, and she has been in our district the longest as far as the group goes. We have 12 mental health therapists in our district. We have each therapist working in at least 2 of our schools. This is pre-K through 12th. We have 2 at the pre-K level as well at Great Beginnings. We have 1 social worker who is new to joining our team this year. All of the mental health therapists have master's degrees. 8 are licensed professional counselors or licensed clinical social workers, which that is what Tina is. And again, you'll be hearing from her shortly. We also have 1 who is a registered art therapist, which is really cool. I'm really excited that Tina's here, and she's going to talk all about how she partners with the school counselors, partners with Burrell and ReDiscover, and partners with other community agencies to provide supports for our students. So she's doing not only that tier 1, but also the tier 2 and tier 3. Also, to talk about Tina's most recent accomplishment, she was recognized as LSR 7 Learning for Life Award for October, which was, we only have 1 person who's recognized for that across the district each month. So she works at Lee Summit North, and the team there was able to celebrate her, and it was really fun to surprise her and see her she was so humbled and so appreciative to receive this award. So Tina is here on behalf of the mental health therapist group, and she's going to talk about their programming.
Good evening. I am so excited to be able to represent the mental health therapist. And I always say mental health counselor just because of me. I'm so thoughtful. And like when I'm calling students down, sometimes the therapist word scares everybody. So I'll say mental health counselor just to keep it in line with our school counselors. But I'm very excited to be here tonight and to represent the other mental health therapists who is working a part of Lee Summit School District. And I'm so excited that Lee Summit School District has so many opportunities for our students, so many resources for our students, and with mental health therapists being one. So I have the pleasure of working at Lee Summit North and Westview Elementary School, and then Summit Technology Academy, which sometimes I don't necessarily have to go there just because there's so many different kids coming in from different schools. But primarily what we do, I like to say that, whereas the counselors are academic, we're more mental health. So we're all counselors, and The great thing about having a license in clinical social work, it allows me to be called a therapist, a social worker, or counselor. I can be called all those things. So I like to think that even though they're handling the academics, we handle the mental health portion of that. So sort of like what Jennifer was saying, when she's dealing with all of that, once they get up on something that's dealing with mental health, then they'll turn it over to us. So we also link our students and our families with resources. We coordinate services in the community. You'll see us really active around Thanksgiving and Christmas time, where we're making sure our families are signing up for outside resources dealing with Christmas and Thanksgiving baskets and that type of thing. But I think one of the greatest things is, even though we're mental health and Jesse gets to be our wonderful supervisor, we also get the ability to be a part of the schools that we are in. So we don't necessarily feel like we're contracted or anything like that, but we're still a part of the school, and we get to establish a relationship with so many students, not only in one building, but in multiple buildings. And so I think that's a positive for the district, that there's so many kids that get to meet us. But not only that, I will say this, I get a kick out of this every year when I'm going in with Laura Hillbrand is one of the counselors. When we're doing it at the beginning of the year and students are coming in and we're doing orientation, she'll say, I can't call off what letter she have right now. She'll say, I have L through Z or something like that. And I'll say, and then when she introduced me, and I'll say, I have A through Z, because I have the potential to see so many students, even though it's only one of me technically in Lee Summit North, but I have the ability to be able to see so many students, and to me, that is a plus. But working alongside with counselors, even principals, teachers, for Lee Summit North, one great thing is, since I've been there almost 10 years now, I have the ability, or the benefit, let me say that, to where teachers will email me. I have a student, or principals will bring me a student. Can you check in on this? And so I like to liken us to, we're the doctors of the building, the clinical doctors of the building. So when you're dealing with diagnosis, and all of that, even though our counselors are able to deal with those kind of things, that's the specialty that we, when we decided to go back to get our master's degree and even become licensed, we're more clinical. So we're dealing more so with the diagnosis of our students. And we know with 18,000 students, you're bound to have a student in this community with literally probably every diagnosis that could be in the DSM book. I don't know, I can't remember if we're at 5 or 6 now, but you have the potential to be able to serve so many students with different diagnoses. So it's a pleasure and an honor to be a part of Lee Summit School District. And I think it's also a pleasure and an honor to be that Lee Summit offers so many resources with Burrell, and then even with ReDiscover, and even just Lee Summit in general. So I'm grateful for the opportunity, and it's such a pleasure to work for Lee Summit School District.
Thank you so much. One thing that when you were talking reminded me, we also have therapy dogs. Our school counselors have therapy dogs. Jen, would you talk about that before I talk a little bit about ReDiscover and Burrell, and then pass it over to Shelley?
Yes. Last year, or was it 2 years ago? I think it was 2 years ago, not just there was a Pratt developed, which is kind of this group to kind of develop some guidelines of what needs to happen with therapy dogs in the school buildings. And I had one in my previous district before I came here, so I was asked to be part of that team. And it was really fun to kind of get the idea of therapy dogs into the schools, because I know how beneficial it is. But I have my Dakota Jean in the school with me. She's a golden retriever. And then we have, I think there's 5 school counseling therapy dogs. And then there's a couple more in classrooms, but it's been a very big success. I haven't really heard anything negative from it. So it's been a very huge blessing for some of those kids that have had maybe negative experiences with dogs or things like that, that can kind of work through that fear and also kind of get that unconditional love and support from an animal, which is a beautiful thing. So yes.
Thank you for speaking to that. And Tina, thank you so much for speaking. And thank you for serving all of our students, and also your team support students who receive counseling minutes on our IEPs. And we're thankful for all of that work that you guys do as well. So I'm going to pass it over to Shelly here in just a second. We're so happy that Jessica and Lauren are here. They are directors at ReDiscover in Burrell, and they're going to talk about their programming here in just a moment. But truly just a fluid process of our mental health supports for our students, from school counselors, mental health therapists, all the way to our partnership with ReDiscover in Burrell. And so we are really happy that you guys are here tonight. And Shelly's going to kind of kick it off and give a little bit of history of the partnership that we have with you guys.
Thanks so much for having me here tonight. I'm Shelly Sanders. I'm the Assistant Superintendent of Equity and Student Services. And I'll just kind of talk about how we landed in such amazing partnerships with Burrell and ReDiscover. Coming out of the pandemic, we realized that there were some significant needs of our students and our society as a whole. So we put out an RFP in the 2021 school year for school-based healthcare. And from that, it kind of narrowed down into school-based mental health programming. And that's where we began our partnership with Burrell. Burrell is out of the Springfield area, and so they were transitioning into the Kansas City area, and provided a great opportunity for us to put clinical staff into buildings that can take the services that we offer to the next level. And so they're able to diagnose kids, they're able to make outside referrals for continued support. They're able to see students in buildings without parents having to shuffle them around. What we realized is that through our phase in of 28 buildings, that there was still an intense need out there. And so last school year, we reopened the RFP in partnership with Burrell to look at another option that will help us continue to serve students. And we were able to bring on ReDiscover to provide some additional supports to buildings. And ReDiscover has extended their services to small group support. Not only do Burrell and ReDiscover support on sort of that tier 3 level, they will also come in if we have a crisis emergency in schools and provide another layer of support for students. And so it has been an amazing partnership that has truly been value add to the services that student supports can offer our students as well as our families. So I'm just so grateful for their partnership, and I'm going to turn it over to Burrell.
Thanks, Shelly. And like everyone else has said, I'm very excited to be here. Thanks for having me. I'm Jessica Berry. I'm currently the Assistant Director of School-Based Services for Burrell. I'm also a licensed practicing counselor myself with tons of experience. I've been working in the community mental health field for 15 years, so very excited to be here. Our school-based service program that we have with Lee Summit is amazing. I really like it. And like Shelly mentioned, we started out with one phase of implementation, and in the past year and a half, we are now fully implemented in a total of 20 school buildings right here in Lee Summit. And it's really amazing. What we offer in each of those 20 school buildings is we offer a 3-tier model. One of those tiers includes a case management level of services, which is a bachelor level person, a person with a bachelor's degree. And then the second tier is SBC, school-based clinician. Those are our licensed providers that are providing individual, family, and group counseling. And our partnership also allows us to provide professional development trainings to any and all staff or employees of the entire district. And most of our trainings are free at cost, which is amazing. It's an amazing thing that we can do to help educate anyone out there on a plethora of topics. It's just really great. Currently in our partnership, it's grown great. We have 5 of those SBSSs, that bachelor level of support, that really partner well with the clinicians and really help kiddos understand skills and tools as they're trying new things. And we have 7 clinicians. Again, those are the licensed providers doing the therapy. How do you get in our services? Someone might ask. Well, let me tell you, there's a few different ways. And the most simplest way is to talk to a school counselor or social worker or mental health therapist at your school building, anyone, and say, hey, I want my kid in services. And they will submit a referral to us. And we will start working that referral and reaching out to those guardians to schedule intake assessments. Once an intake assessment is completed, we will assign that kiddo to an SBSS, SBC, or both, and that provider will start seeing that kid within 5 business days. We provide time unlimited services, so there's no time frame. Now, if a kiddo is a senior and they're getting ready to graduate, we're obviously going to start working on where's your next step, and do we need to do outpatient at that point in time? But time unlimited services. And also, when we call and reach out to those guardians at that first point of contact, we talk about, do you have insurance? And if not, we'll help you figure out insurance. We'll help you apply for Medicaid, or maybe your kiddo had Medicaid and it lapsed or something. We can help you with all of those things. If you have insurance, great, we will use insurance. We also have services that we use grant funding for. So there are lots of options for insured, uninsured, all the things. We look at all of that stuff when a kiddo comes into our services. And I'll tell you, I don't know about you all, but I heard that there's 18,000 students in Lee Summit. And here's what I know. We all have 100% mental health. And you're right when you said COVID really taught us a lot of stuff. And here's also what I know. When we have kiddos in schools that have dysregulated brains, it's hard for them to learn. And so if anything, we can come in and help get those brains regulated enough so that they can have a better opportunity at learning in the classroom and having the best successful day that they can at school. So again, thank you for having me, and I appreciate the time being here with you guys.
Thank you so much, Jessica. I appreciate that. And with the phasing in and knowing that we wanted to phase in even quicker than our original plan, then came in ReDiscover with the RFP that we had last year. And we are so excited to have Lauren here with us today. And truly, Jessica and Lauren have been a wonderful addition, and we have really worked together pretty closely with these 2 agencies are working really well together. So I'm just so happy and so pleased with how well you guys are working for our students and the partnership that you already have together. So Lauren, I'm going to pass it over to you to talk about the services that you provide for our students as well.
Great. Thank you, Dr. Segan. I am Lauren Sparts. I manage our school-based services at ReDiscover. We've had several different partnerships through the years with Lee Summit. Most recently, back in 2019, we started at Summit Ridge Academy, offering mental health services there. And then this school year, we've really been able to expand. And I think I can speak for everyone at ReDiscover that is we are really excited about this new opportunity to really service our community. We currently have 5 school-based clinicians, and we are servicing 10 schools in Lee Summit. I use the term mental health clinician for our team because, as Tina kind of talked on earlier, my staff do a lot of different things throughout their day. They are all embedded within their school, so they have a space that they meet with students. They are there from the time that students arrive until dismissal time. And we focus our attention on providing therapy and case management services. But as Shelley had mentioned earlier, we also can offer a couple different programs and different supports depending on kind of what the building's needs are. So we try to individualize based on what's the population, what are the concerns we're seeing. So some of my staff do small groups, and that's been a great expansion, especially at our elementary level this year. I also have some staff that will go into health classes and talk about mental health. What is mental health? What are the resources in our communities? How can you get mental health services when you need it? We also are part of the crisis response. I think Dr. Segan touched on that earlier. So if there's ever a crisis, whether it's within the building or within the district, we are able to kind of support that community as they need that. In terms of good referrals, if you think of a student that is really struggling during their school day to focus, to be successful in class, those are the prime ones that would be great referrals for our school-based program. We, similar to Jessica, we do take insurance, but however, whatever insurance doesn't cover, we have a grant that will pay the remainder. So our families are out zero cost for our services in our buildings. A common question we get a lot with doing school-based services is what happens on breaks. So our staff are year-round, so they may start in the school year, but we are able to continue their mental health services during winter break, during summer break, so that there's no lapse. Consistency is really important to maintain progress, and so we work with families on kind of where we can provide those services when school is not in session. We are just really excited to be here, and I thank you, Dr. Segan, for the invitation tonight, and I'm excited to see kind of where this partnership goes.
Same. Thank you so much, Lauren and Jessica and Tina and Jen for talking. I do want to point out for the viewers, if there are any questions about which agency your child's building partners with, that is on our website. As Jessica mentioned, they are in 20 of our schools. And as Lauren mentioned, they're in 10 of our schools. If you go to the LSR7 website under departments down to student support, you will see the school-based clinicians and which building they partner with. And if there is a question about, can you switch, if your building is a Burrell building, can you switch to ReDiscover or vice versa? No, your building is assigned based on where the phase-in landed. And so that list is available on our website if you are curious about that.
And to add to that, I think there's a question that says, if our student attends a different school, is there a way to get them into therapy sessions with me? I'm totally humbled by that. But each school has an educational, sorry, that was our old title, our mental health therapist assigned to it. And I believe that is also on our website. And you can click and see who's assigned to the school which your child attends.
Thank you, Tina. Yeah, you really resonated with one of our audience members. So that's really great. I want to thank you all so much for talking so much more about what you guys do every day. I know that there's probably even more that you're thinking about right now that maybe you forgot to add. So like, if you have something before we end at 7:30, like definitely jump in and let us know. I want to remind our audience members, the Q&A box is where you can get questions to us. But I want to add on top of that question though, actually, so it feels to me like some parents may have gotten their question answered just now by Jessica and Lauren about like if they feel that their student needs some extra support and they just haven't known where to go yet. But Dr. Segan, Assistant Superintendent Sanders, is there anything else you guys want to add about those extra supports that are in place in our schools or within the district that maybe we haven't touched on yet?
Yes, I wanted to say something too. So if you go to our website, I did mention earlier that we also have a district-wide social worker. If you go to our website under student support department and you go to mental health therapist, there's actually a student services referral form. If you guys, any of the listeners need anything, like some extra community support, Katie monitors that form. She's our social worker. She monitors that form and she does a great job connecting families with community resources. Our school counselors do the same thing. They have access to that as well. And Tina and the mental health therapist group has access to that. And when I say access, I mean they have access to community resources. So we want to help if anybody has any additional needs. Just know that that is there and we are monitoring that and making sure that we get you the resources and the access that you need for either yourselves or for your students.
And I did just put that link in the chat. I think everybody should see that.
I
No,
put it there too.
I
Sorry.
saw that. Yeah, that went to hosts and panelists. So hopefully our audience members can see one of those links. If not, you will go to lsr7.org, and then you will go up to the very top of the screen, click on departments, and then you can scroll down just a little bit more and you will find student support. And hopefully that is just a couple clicks and easy for you as well. That question also included asking a little bit more about the art therapist, but if you want to talk any bit more about that, you are welcome to. If not, I do have another question for you. You let me know.
Yes, the art therapist, that is Michelle Hamilton. She is fantastic. Our whole team is just wonderful. She is fantastic. So you can go to the student support department and you can see which buildings Michelle serves.
Hey, well, here's the question that I have actually is, and it's for all of you to answer. So take your time and think about it and chime in when you're ready. What do you think would surprise? I think that the parents who are on here or who are watching this later, they care about their student, or even if they're not parents and they just have a student in their life, they care about their student's mental health. It's a big deal. It's important. It's important to their learning. What do you think would surprise parents about, or just a caregiver about how they could support their students, or what students express actually needing? I know that was kind of a toughie. It was a heavy one to start, but I'm a parent. I know a lot of us are parents, and I think that that's something that they might want to hear about.
I can speak a little bit on that. I think prior to COVID, we were on the trajectory of increasing youth mental health issues. And then I think with the pandemic, it just exasperated us and sent us 10 years down the road very quickly. And I get asked this question a lot, being in this field, of kind of why is all this happening? And I think a lot of it comes down to the lack of connection. As human beings, we need that connection, that social, emotional closeness with someone else. And as our world has become more digitized, I think that has created new challenges for us to do that. And so whenever we're talking with parents and with families, a lot of it comes back to, how can I feel connected to my kid? And I can speak on that from a personal level too. Whenever you're going through a new transition with your child, there's always bumps and new things that come up, and it always ends up with, can I get on the same page with them? How can I connect with them? And I think a lot of that is kind of what is also being talked about by kids, not just even parents as well, when they're meeting with our team.
And I would piggyback off of that a little bit. My daughter graduated in 2019, and of course, I'm her mother, not her therapist. So I mean, we have a great relationship. So she didn't feel uncomfortable coming to me, but I also went to people that I knew she trusted in the building. And it didn't offend me if she didn't want to talk to me about something. As long as I knew that she had someone that she could depend on and trust in, that I trusted, that I knew that would give her sound advice, I was totally okay with that. And so I hope that parents will look at us like that. Like, our goal is not to figure out ways that everything in your home is horrible. I know that sometimes that's a misconception with when you hear our title, and that's what we're trying to do. That's not it at all. But how do we keep the family intact, as well as making sure the kid or the student is able to learn, and while addressing their mental health with somebody that they trust? So look at us as a part of your team, and not necessarily against you, or outside of what the family do, but we're a part of your team, even your family team.
Absolutely. And I'll add as well, you kind of asked, when you were saying the question, you said, what would a parent do? As a parent myself, and as a counselor, right? Listening goes a long way. And as a mom, I know kids say a lot of stuff, right? To us parents. And it's like, how do I decipher what's real and what's not real? And is this, do they need help? Or, it's sometimes hard to decide. And so just know that people at Burrell, people at ReDiscover, people at the school building, much like Tina said, like, we took oaths when we went to college and graduated, unconditional positive regard, non-judgmental approaches. And I know it may not feel that way when you're the parent in the driver's seat of helping your child, but really it's true. And so sometimes as a parent, I think just saying to yourself, I'm going to listen to my kid and I am going to reach out and ask for help. And that doesn't make you any less of a parent. It doesn't. Think of it as if your child's sick, you're going to want to take them to a nurse practitioner or a doctor, right? Same thing. Even if you're not sure if it's real or not real, why not get them assessed? Why not talk to somebody? And so that's where I would start. Listen and take action, and don't be embarrassed, and don't be afraid. And we're here to help.
I think also going off of that, also, I've seen a lot of more coping skills, lacking of coping skills and not being able to talk. And I think sometimes parents can do amazing things just by modeling, like, hey, I'm not okay right now. And just kind of showing them kind of how to work through and emotionally regulate so that we can get up to that top part of our brain to where we can logically solve problems. And I think sometimes we get such big feelings, even as adults. And you know what? Kids know how to push buttons. We all know this, right? But keeping a calm head and kind of showing them that emotional regulation is huge, because they are little barometers where they will feed off of any energy you give and any energy we give as educators. So we have to really kind of focus on just calming ourselves whenever they push our buttons, but in modeling those positive coping skills.
Yeah, I love everything that you guys have said. And I really appreciated Jessica saying too, that if you have questions as a parent, please absolutely call the school. Your school's principal, counselor, mental health therapist will guide you in the right direction to make sure that you are receiving the support that you need for your student. And no question is a bad question. There's been times I myself have 3 children in the district, and I have called my school's counselor, my student's school counselor multiple times, even just to check in on your student. We, like Tina said, we're here together to partner with you, and we're here to support you and support your students so that they have good days and they can be regulated and learn at school. So we are truly a team, and we welcome any calls if you ever have any questions.
You have another question that's district wide question. So, and I was wondering the same thing. So how is it determined if I were to go for my student and say, I think my student needs some extra support, how is it determined if they're going to be recommended to a mental health therapist or go to the mental health therapist first, or if they'll be recommended to go to ReDiscover or Burrell, depending on what school building I'm in?
Tina, do you want to start with that, with our most recent flow chart of information, and then I can kind of jump in as well and contribute to the conversation?
You can go on, and I'm still learning that new. I mean, I have it, and then I'll jump in. You can start off. Well, let me say this. So mainly with the mental health therapists, we do, and I didn't go over this, but Jessie sort of came back in and addressed this. So we primarily are seeing what we call a reg ed student, which are our regular students that don't have IEPs or even 504s, but a lot of times we have to, not a lot of times, but all the time, when we have students who have mandatory counseling minutes, we have to see those, and they have that in their IEP plans. So that will take up, I don't want to say we don't have time for anybody else, but that takes up a lot of our time when we have to address those students who have mandatory counseling minutes. So probably even at least some in North, that I have probably about 20 students with mandatory minutes, which means that will pull me from being able to see some of the kids who might not have mandatory minutes where I need to see them weekly. And so the great thing about that's where Burrell and ReDiscover is able to pick up, where I may be addressing some IEP minutes. They can come in and address those students who don't necessarily have those IEP minutes.
Yes.
And so that process is that they'll usually, the counselor, referrals can be done by counselors or even the mental health therapists, but usually the counselors are sort of the first who may get that. And let me say how it goes at North. So they'll hit me up and say, Tina, if I already have a relationship with that student, then I'll try to make way to see them because I already have a relationship with that student. So, just in this industry, you sometimes don't want to add a lot of extra people in there if they already have established relationships. So for me, I will continue seeing, or I will make way to see that student. So, and then Jesse, you can pick up.
Yes.
Well, and I'm going to add one thing real quick. Sure. I know that the counselors are working really, they are developing that relationship with their mental health therapists to really kind of talk with them about, hey, which way do we need to go with this? And we look at the child and their family all the way around to decide that. So it really is the counselor and kind of the mental health therapist and the whole team all together to kind of decide what best will help that family and that child.
Yes. Absolutely. That's what I was going to say too, Jen, is that the counselor and the mental health therapist really talk together because they know the students firsthand because they're in the buildings every day. So they talk, they consult with each other. And a lot of times if it's determined that the student needs more wraparound services with regard to possibly a diagnosis, and more even like family counseling, Burrell and ReDiscover can provide that. Also, they do have a child psychiatrist on hand as well who can have conversations about possible medication options. And so we do have our mental health therapists are all licensed and they are able to diagnose. However, they do not diagnose in the school. That's where those community partnerships come in. And so it's very much a team collaborative effort. There's a lot of conversations going on to make sure that the student is getting the support that they need. But when they are on an IEP, they are working with our mental health therapists, and our mental health therapists work with Reg Ed students too. It just really depends on the specific needs of the student.
Thank you for that clarification. It's really helpful. I'm curious for all of you, but I want to start with Jen. I think when we hear or we talk about mental health, your mind kind of can go to a crisis situation potentially, but you guys aren't dealing with crisis every single minute of the day in the schools. So what are some things that you guys are helping and supporting our students with day to day that might surprise people that falls under your purview?
Yeah, I've had quite a few of these actually this year that I've gotten a call, like if I've done a small group letter home to say, hey, we're going to have a small group. And they're like, oh my gosh, is my kid thinking about suicide or something like that? And I'm like, no. I would definitely call you. I think anxiety is really high right now. So a lot of my day kind of is trying to help regulate kids, just trying to be okay and ready to learn. A lot of our jobs as school counselors is to help teachers kind of manage some of the relationships in the classrooms, and things like that. Also, we're on a lot of teams in the building. So I'm on our Hornet support team, which is helping kids that might be struggling academically and trying to figure out things like that and behaviorally. So there's a lot of things that under that, the foundation of how the school is kind of helping children that the counselors are part of. Does that kind of explain a little bit? That anxiety piece is big though. I can't say that enough. It's getting bigger and bigger. And
I think the relationship management part of that as well is really interesting. Dr. Segan and I were talking a little bit yesterday, and she was explaining even more about all that you do every day. And so that was something that stood out to me. I'm curious who else has something that they want to add to that about maybe the surprising things that they're working with students to cope with or deal with or work through during their meetings.
I can speak on that. Just we are in a couple different districts in the metro area, and across the board, regardless of the district, we have had so many conversations this fall about our young students really struggling a lot with kind of acclimating to what is school. How do you, like Jennifer was saying, how do you regulate your behaviors, your emotion, all throughout the school day? And so we've had to target and kind of change some of our groups that we've been offering. It's more kind of social skills, very practical things, alongside kind of some of those, mental health coping skills and whatnot. One of the other pieces that part of our role that we don't talk about a lot is when you're providing school-based mental health services, you're not really in an office and in isolation, which is typically what people think of with mental health services. So we're very much, and I could speak for all of us here, around the building, walking, grabbing kids, meeting with different people, on the phone with parents. And so you're constantly moving around. We may even push into some classes if we're really wanting to work with, on a coping skill or a different strategy. You may see us in the class alongside the student, kind of working in a real life situation, practicing those skills.
Awesome.
And I would add, and I don't have necessarily anything to add to that, but a positive note. I will say this. I think, even though we're seeing a higher level of anxiety in students across the board, one thing I also noticed, I know in my era, I'm not going to age myself, but I know at one time, seeing you were going to therapy and counseling, was sort of looked upon, negatively. But I think we could find some kind of hope in our kids because they are not necessarily looking at reaching out to a social worker or reaching out to a therapist or the mental health therapist as a negative. I find that they're running to us. So I find that that's a positive with all the things that we have in place. It's a positive. So I truly have hope in our children of today.
Yeah, we definitely don't want our student support team to be a hidden secret. We want everybody to know about the amazing work that you're doing every day, and that the ways that you can reach them. And we do have a question about our accessibility and how we are maintaining our ability to meet with students in a variety of ways. Dr. Segan, can you talk about the ways that our school-based clinicians are working both in person and virtually?
Yes, and I can also have Jessica join me in on this question. So like she mentioned, we do have bachelor's level folks as well, the SBSS. Then we also have the clinical providers as well that are providing therapy. A lot of times there's an SBSS and an SBC working alongside each other in the school. Not every single student who's referred for services will be working with an SBC. They may be working with a bachelor's level person, and those services are typically provided in person. Jessica, I know that they are also sometimes provided virtually if the family requests it, or for some reason there is a transportation issue or something along those lines. So can you kind of speak to the virtual side of that as well?
Absolutely. Like any job in the world, COVID taught us that we can still work. And so that's been kind of a good thing out of COVID. But yes, when school is in session, our providers are in the buildings. Some of our providers are in more than one building. And so that might mean they're at the high school on Monday and they're at an elementary on Tuesday and then back in the high school on Wednesday. And so it can get a little tricky. But with that said, the students know when they're going to be seen. The school buildings know when we're going to be there. And then much like Lauren mentioned with ReDiscover, our services are year round. So on Christmas break, spring break, we can offer virtual sessions then. And we can definitely get creative, like Dr. Segan mentioned, at the request of the parent or the guardian or the kiddo or whatever we need to do, we are flexible so that we can make sure that we can help that child.
Can you, we just got a really great question, and it's a great reminder for all of us as we go throughout our days. We use so many acronyms, both in education and in mental health. So can you elaborate a little bit on those acronyms that you were just saying really quickly?
So I will say an SBSS, I assume that's what they're wanting to know, right? So
yes.
An SBSS is a school-based support specialist. Essentially, you guys, that's a case manager. It's somebody who helps families and kids identify resources that might be needed. Also, it's just that extra layer of support to help really hone in and use those coping skills that the kid might be learning in therapy or counseling. Also, SBSSs can help kiddos identify like what triggers them. Let's say if a kiddo struggles with transitioning from class to class, they can help them identify that and help them identify alternative ways to go through those transitions and have better luck and feel more comfortable in doing those things. An SBC, school-based clinician. Again, and a fun acronym to say it's a licensed provider, a therapist, a counselor, much like I think Tina mentioned earlier. We're called a lot of things. It's just a fancy glorified acronym, but it's all the same stuff. So therapist and a case manager. At the end of the day, that's what it is.
Perfect.
And
Thank you.
ultimately, you know, our school counselors and our mental health therapists are in the buildings every single day. So when they are working with a school-based specialist, the school-based specialist can show the students where the school counselor is and how they can meet with the school counselor if they have a request or if they have a need, because the school counselor is going to be there every day. So they're going to be teaching them those skills about who they can access when they need varying supports.
And anytime a crisis arises in the building, even if the Burrell or ReDiscover is not there, it's not like we're telling them you have to wait till they get here. So we will address whatever crisis, or if there's something urgent, we will still address that immediately. So it's not like we push those students aside and wait till your therapist get. We don't do that. We will address the need if it's there and present at that moment.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh,
Go
I'm
ahead,
so
Jessie.
sorry. No, I think that that's a really good point. And actually, Lauren, I would like to pass it over to you because that reminds me about 988. And I want all of the listeners to know about 988 and that accessibility, how it's available 24/7, that support if they need something when their child is not at school, if they need some additional support when they're at home.
Absolutely. That's exactly where my mind went actually with that question. So even if our like school-based clinicians aren't in the building and there's a crisis, whether it's during a school day or evening, weekends, we have our 988 crisis response team at ReDiscover. And so any calls that go to 988 will be routed to ReDiscover because we are the agency for this area. And so you'll have a local counselor that will be able to answer that line, kind of assess what's going on, and they can actually go out to the individual. So whether if it's a student at a school, we can go to the school. If it's at home, community, what have you, our team is ready to go, and they go to the site to assist. They'll do the risk assessment, talk with parents about options, help de-escalate if that's the crisis situation. They are a wonderful partnership, and we work really closely between our school-based team and their team, and we have regular kind of communication. So if they ever have a student that they see in the evening that they know, meets with our person at say Lee Summit West, they will follow up and let that individual know. And so we kind of really have that wraparound service.
So before I ask my last question, I just want to plug a few things. The district has had conversations surrounding the student support team and mental health before. So if you want to go find any of those on the district's YouTube channel, you can find 2 other past R7 speaker series. One was with Burrell and ReDiscover, and we talked a lot about mental health issues that are facing our students. The other was all about those school transitions that you've heard a little bit about, where we sat down and talked about the different levels of transitions that students go through within our district. So a student entering kindergarten, a student entering 6th grade in middle school, and a student entering 9th grade in high school, and like how you can support your student. And then we also have a podcast where I sat down with Jen and we talked about therapy dogs. We talked about Dakota. It's a really, really cozy conversation if you want to listen to that as well. My last question, because we have 5 minutes left, I just was hoping that you all could speak and give maybe one final thought to a student or a parent about what you would want them to leave their day with if you were meeting with them during the day, whatever that is, whether it's advice for a parent, advice for a student, maybe that's about accessing you guys, but I want everybody to have a chance to say one final thing before we end.
I can start.
Okay.
I'm gonna piggyback on what Tina said earlier, is that we are here to help. We are not here to kind of separate families or, cause rifts in families. We as a mental health team are just here to help build bridges and help their child and their family succeed. And I just want to share that like we are there for you and you can contact us whenever. So email, call, show up. We're there.
I'm gonna popcorn it to Lauren.
If I were meeting with like a new family that was entering services or was a little unsure, what I would want them to take away is hope. At the end of the day, I would want them to know that by meeting with our support team, with all of us here on this call, that change is possible and that we have you, that we have these layers of support, and that you can count on us, you can call us, and that we'll answer and we'll listen. And we're really trying to take care of their mental health needs.
Yeah, Tina?
And I'll just leave you with something that I share with my students pretty much on a daily, especially when they're having a down day. This is what I say to them. I'll say, I know you're in the middle of a crisis or you're in the middle of a mood. And I always tell them to be careful with making long-term decisions based off of short-term emotions. And even though it feels really heavy now, I promise you the sun does shine again tomorrow.
I love that. Jessica?
So many thoughts come to mind. And I also see the time. So I will say that, no matter what age you are, so if you're a parent or you're a kid in school, we have our own thoughts. And most of the time, those thoughts, they stay in our brain, they stay in our head. We keep them to ourselves. We don't share everything that goes on in here to everyone else. And depending on what kind of stuff's going on in your brain or what kind of thoughts and feelings you're having, you can start to feel really alone. And you can start to feel isolated, like you're the only person with those thoughts and feelings. And so just sharing, getting out there, reaching out to your school counselor or anybody at the school building, let us help and let us show you that you don't have to feel alone. That would be what I would tell someone.
Yeah. Assistant Superintendent Sanders.
I think the theme that I heard tonight in our conversation was this deep desire to better serve students and families in whatever they need at the moment. And so our hope is that as we continue along this path to continue providing services that support our families in the best possible situation or in the best possible capacity, that families provide us feedback on how we can better do that. Right. I think oftentimes as a district, we work really hard to get it right. And sometimes we miss the mark because we think we're doing it right, but we're not doing it the best way that we can. And so we're always open to feedback from our stakeholders about how we can best serve students and families. So please feel free to reach out to myself or Dr. Segan and let us know how we can better serve.
Yeah. And Dr. Segan.
Yeah, thank you so much. Everybody just said it perfectly. At the end of the day, parents, guardians, we love your kids. We have their best interest at heart, and we are so thankful that you share them with us. I want to mention that we have an upcoming mental health support evening, a family engagement night where we are partnering with the Educational Foundation, and we are going to invite our families in, and we will send that out. Our PR department will send out that invitation, but we hope our families come in. We're going to have babysitting for students and little ones, free babysitting. You can come in and listen to a keynote, and then we're going to have breakout sessions on various topics such as anxiety, screens, phones, screen sanity. We're going to have impact officers come in and talk about all the issues going on. So we are literally excited to partner with our families, continue the conversation, bring awareness, and we hope to see many of you there in the spring. And again, just reach out with any questions. We're all here to support.
And that is an hour. Thank you all for joining us. Again, this will be up on our district YouTube channel tomorrow afternoon. Thank you so much. Have a good night.